Following Rico Dowdle's breakout performance on Sunday, how will the Panthers divvy up the running back carries moving forward? And is Bryce Young clutch? People are asking, and I will answer those questions among other listener questions on this weekly Wednesday mailbag edition of Locked On Panthers.
You are Locked On Panthers, your daily Carolina Panthers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, the part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, as always, Julian Council, talking Carolina Panthers with you every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and yes, of course, Friday, your team every day. That's our motto here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for watching the show here on YouTube and listening wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Panthers is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. We're back once again here on the show on a Wednesday, and every single Wednesday throughout the entirety of the regular season, I answer your weekly Wednesday mailbag questions. If you're new to the show, new to the weekly Wednesday mailbag, and you want to know how to get a question in next week, it's pretty simple. All you got to do is either at me or DM me over on Twitter and Blue Sky at Julian Council, and you can get those questions into me immediately following the game against Dallas on Sunday. Then I'll be back right here next week on Wednesday answering your weekly Wednesday mailbag questions. And let's go ahead and start off by discussing a former Dallas Cowboy and a current Carolina Panther, Rico Dowdle, who went off on Sunday. Matter of fact, Rico even called for a play, that inside zone that they ran there in the second half, took it 53 yards, and Brad Idzik, he had told him, man, hey, I want to see that play, Brad. Tell Dave to get that play in, and Dave said, all right, fine, we'll do it, but y'all better go out there and execute, and damn it, they executed 53 yards, the biggest play of the day for Carolina, at least on the ground. And he had an outstanding day running for 206 yards on the ground, tying Jonathan Stewart for the second most by a Panthers rusher in franchise history, behind D'Angelo Williams, who went for 210 yards back in 2012, which prompts William to ask me this: with Rico Dowdle's stellar performance, albeit against Miami, but still a great game, do you think this cuts even more into Chuba Hubbard's snap percentage? Like maybe this becomes a 60-40 with Dowdle being favored? And also, do you think the Panthers re-sign Dowdle and have a two-headed monster running back for seasons to come? I will say, as far as the latter goes, I do not expect Rico Dowdle to be back in Carolina next year. They've already paid Chuba Hubbard a lot of money to be the starting running back here, and they just drafted Trevor Etienne. Jonathan Brooks will wait and see what his impact will be, but the hope is he'll be back next year fully healthy, and we don't know how good of an athlete he'll still be after having two ACL surgeries in that same knee across a 13-month span. And I'm hopeful, I'm sure Dan Morgan and Dave Canales and everybody here in Carolina is hopeful that he can be the player that they believe they were taking in the second round out of Texas last year, but we don't know. But we did see Trevor look pretty good there on that final drive. He had a 12-yard run nearly. I thought he was going to score a touchdown there to put Carolina up on that game-winning drive. But he looked good as a rusher so far. And, of course, Chuba Hubbard is Chuba Hubbard. We know who he is. But Rico Dowdle not getting the kind of contract I think he was hoping to get after leaving Dallas, and probably was hoping to get from the Cowboys, who ended up going over to Javonte Williams and some other guys in that backfield. He came back home, took a deal that he probably was hoping to get a lot more from someone else on the market to be the starting running back. If he continues to have a good year, I'm not expecting him to have another 200-yard performance. Maybe he'll do it on Sunday against his former team if Chuba's not ready to go. But Rico probably going to try to find other opportunities outside of Carolina. And I think the Panthers, with their investment in Chuba and their investments in Jonathan Brooks and Trevor Etienne, they're also going to be looking to move on from him after this year. But if he's outstanding and is a guy that you feel like you really got to keep, maybe, but I just don't think it makes a lot of sense to put a ton of money into the running back position, especially when you've already done that with one player in Chuba. But as far as the splits moving forward, I don't expect it to be a 60-40 in Rico's favor. If anything, it would be 60-40 when looking at Chuba. But you look at their carries, at least so far this season, when the two of them have played. You had to week one, Chuba had 16. Rico had 3. And there's a lot of questions from the media and my colleagues afterwards being like, what's going on here? Why would you bring in Rico Dowdle, who had 1,000 yards rushing, who was really good success rate wise in Dallas, and pair him up with Chuba Hubbard, then only give him 3 carries, and actually didn't get a carry until, I believe, after Trevor Etienne in that game? Like, how much sense does that make? Well, they tried to correct it the next week where there was 10 carries for Chuba and then 6 for Rico. Not a lot of running as they got behind there at Arizona. Then the week after that, 17 carries for Chuba, 10 for Rico, and they were able to combine for over 100 yards in that game, which was okay, good, A+, love to see that. Then the last time each of them were out there together against New England, 10 for Chuba, 9 for Rico. So basically a 50-50 split there. And I'm guessing after the way Rico performed on Sunday, and Dave told us on Monday, it's a good problem to have, having 2 good backs like Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard in the backfield, who are both capable of those kind of performances that we saw from Rico on Sunday, what we've seen from Chuba in the past, especially last year, as he really ascended into that RB1 spot and as a franchise caliber player here in Carolina. I would think would make a lot of sense to take pressure off of Chuba, who again has 3 more years left on his deal, and you would like for him to be able to play out the lifetime of that deal. And the way to do that is to give Rico Dowdle the other half of the carries. And if you want to do a 60-40 split, then I suppose you could do that as well. But I do think moving forward, especially after what happened on Sunday, it will be more 50-50. And consider this. Chuba's dealing with a calf injury. Go back to the end of last season. He went on IR with a calf strain. I'm not sure if it's the same calf, the same situation he's dealing with right now. I will ask Dave Canales about this when I'm in the building on Wednesday for his press conference to figure out what exactly the deal is with that calf that they're continuing to take day to day. But if he's going to have that as a concern, then you don't want to have too much wear and tear on his body moving forward. So it would make sense just for the health of Chuba Hubbard and just for, the betterment of the running back room, if it may be more Rico 60-40. But I think it'll be more of a 50-50 split once Chuba is back, maybe even as soon as this Sunday at home against the Cowboys. Now over to Kurt, who's asking a simple question. Do you consider Bryce Young clutch? Now, he does have a few more thoughts after that. 7 of Bryce's 8 wins are credited to him with a game-winning drive after the Miami comeback on Sunday. I know his win-loss record doesn't look good. QB wins is not a stat, by the way, y'all. His amount of games under 200 yards passing isn't great. And obviously his turnovers are an issue. But this is Kurt saying this. I think there's something to be said for what he's managed to do in the fourth quarter in the wins he's had, not even including the plays he made in Philly and against Tampa and Kansas City last year that ultimately fell short for various reasons. Looking over at Pro Football Reference, they have credited Bryce Young with 4 fourth quarter comebacks and 7 game-winning drives. 2023, those walk-off wins against the Texans and the Falcons. In 2024, against New Orleans at home. The Giants game in Munich, which that's not a game-winning drive. The defense got the 3 takeaways, including forcing the fumble there of Tyrone Tracy Jr. That is not a game-winning drive for Bryce Young. They didn't even need to run a play. Dave's just like, okay, let's run a play. Let's get closer, make it easier for Eddie. They could have brought Eddie out immediately, just set him up to where he needed to be, maybe after one play. But okay, they give him that. The Cardinals game last year in overtime, of the Falcons game in week 18, where he was excellent. And then, of course, on Sunday against Miami. Now, looking at his splits across quarters, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter in Bryce Young's 8 wins. And I had to blink, kind of wipe my eyes and do a double take. Like, wait, hold on. He's only won 8 games. Again, QB wins is not a stat, but still, it's like, wow, that is jarring that it's been that bad. And I've been sitting here talking about it and did not realize it was that few of wins. But in those wins, Bryce Young in the fourth quarter has completed 66% of his passes for 363 yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception as a 90.4 passer rating. So only 2 touchdowns does not lead you to believe that this guy has necessarily been clutch in the fourth quarter. Matter of fact, his best quarter in wins is the second quarter, where he's completed 70% of his passes for 466 yards, 5 touchdowns, an interception, and a 106.0 passer rating. So he's been better in the second quarter. He even has the best EPA per drop back in the second quarter and success rate in the second quarter. And then behind that, the second best quarter he's played in the wins is in the fourth quarter. Those numbers from our friends over at True Media. If you take away the game results, he has thrown for the most passing yards and passing touchdowns in the fourth quarter. And you look at the games like Kurt mentioned against Philadelphia, or if Xavier Legette catches the ball, the Panthers quite possibly win that game. He comes back and is able to tie the game against Kansas City. Too much time on the board for Patrick Mahomes in that offense. Casey ends up kicking that game-winning field goal. And then Tampa, touchdown, game over. Like, the defense has got to get off the field. There's only 30 seconds left. You can't lose in that situation. Like, he was awesome for that 3-week stretch where, yes, if you asked me that question back then, Kurt, absolutely the man is clutch. And he has come up big in certain situations. They just have not come out on top, they being the Carolina Panthers, and all those situations like against Tampa, Kansas City, and Philadelphia last year. But we'll have to wait and see, because 8 game-winning drives is great. Or 7 game-winning drives is great. It kind of stinks that every single time that the Panthers win with Bryce, seemingly it has to be a game-winning drive. I suppose the only other time they won with Bryce was a couple weeks ago, that 30-0 win where he didn't have to come back and win the game at the end. But it's nice to know that when you're winning, your quarterback is going out there and getting it done in that manner with the fourth quarter comeback and with the game-winning drive. So, yeah, maybe he is clutch, but there are still concerns about Bryce Young. And Timothy, one of my, I guess, our listeners, we're all, in this together. One of the listeners of Locked On Panthers, he is a little concerned, even coming off a win, based off of how Bryce was playing early on in that game. We'll talk about that here in just a moment on Locked On Panthers.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs. With features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance, you can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go, while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So, let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
All right, back here on Locked On Panthers. At me or DM me over on Twitter and Blue Sky at Julian Council to get your question in for next week's edition of the weekly Wednesday mailbag here on the show. We were just talking about, is Bryce Young clutch? Maybe. He has certainly, when they've won, led them down the field to win those games. So in that sense, yes. But also, I'm not so sure I want to see a little bit more to truly be all in on Bryce Young's clutchness, his clutch gene, if he has one, which I guess back in college, he kind of had one as well. Timothy, though, he is a little concerned about Bryce after that win on Sunday. And let's understand this. And I brought this up on the show. I saw that Josh Norris, who does stuff for Underdog Fantasy, really awesome of the work he does, a fellow Elon alum from Charlotte, Panther fan. He put out some stuff about the throws that Bryce had on Sunday, and I brought that up. That play he made on fourth down, getting into Tyrone McMillan, like that may have been the game, because Miami was scoring on those like pseudo short fields on Sunday. They would have had the ball around, I believe, the 44-47 of their own yard line, and I think they probably end up scoring on that drive, whether it's a field goal or a touchdown, and that probably puts that game away. But then the throw to Xavier Legette in the end zone for a touchdown, a later throw to Xavier Legette, also on that game-winning drive, of course, fourth down throw to Jimmy Horn Jr., the touchdown throw to Mitchell Evans. When they needed him to step up, he got it done. So, yes, he has been clutch in those situations, but there's also some bad. And Timothy saying, I'm pleased with the win, which I'm glad he prefaced that, but then here comes the negativity, or just, his feelings overall. But how alarming is it that Bryce Young is still making these awful turnovers, regardless of it being his third year? I still see the potential, but seeing stuff like that initial fumble against the Dolphins makes me worry about a lack of development. I don't know if it's a lack of development for Bryce to just drop the ball in that scenario. I don't know how that happens. I've seen guys do that in the past. It's not the first time I've seen a quarterback just drop the ball. I don't think that's about development. Maybe the overthrow to Leggett could be about development. Is he having his footwork married to his drop back into where he's trying to go with the ball? Were there some situations there that in the past have crept up again in that situation? I don't know, but you look at his numbers so far this season, he's had 7 turnovers and 34 points have been scored off of those 7 turnovers. The Panthers, as I've mentioned them multiple times, and I'm sorry for bringing up this stat a lot, but not everybody listens to every single show or watches every show. But still, their Panthers though are 2-18 when Bryce Young turns the ball over. Whether it's 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, they're 2-18. They got the win on Sunday and the win last year, one of those game-winning drives and fourth quarter comebacks against New Orleans at home. So he has 8 turnover-worthy plays so far, according to Pro Football Focus, so far this season. That's tied with Tua Tagovailoa and only less than Spencer Rattler, Baker Mayfield, who's been balling, Jake Browning, who just lost his job to Joe Flacco, and Geno Smith, who has not had a great time so far in Vegas with Pete Carroll. And if you look even further just at some of the other stats, some of the advanced analytics, and also just basic things, passer rating, his passer rating is 27th out of 33 quarterbacks who have qualified so far through 5 weeks. His EPA per dropback is 30th out of 33 quarterbacks. His explosive pass play percentage is 35th out of 40 quarterbacks who have started so far this season, only ahead of Jake Browning, who again has been benched, Jackson Dart, Tyrod Taylor, Joe Burrow, who's hurt, and Spencer Rattler. His success rate, 30th out of 40 quarterbacks. And then yards per attempt, you want to look at just a basic stat, 31st out of 33 quarterbacks who have qualified. That's not good. That has him as a bottom tier quarterback in the NFL through 5 weeks. And yet the Panthers are sitting here at 2-3. If I gave you those numbers before the season, you probably would believe that, oh man, Carolina would be in a really bad spot, that Bryce would be potentially benched already in favor of Andy Dalton, that there's going to be another quick hook from Dave Canales to salvage the rest of the team. But right now, you look just the numbers, it hasn't looked great. You look at week 1, just his play overall wasn't good. The way he started out there, week 2, the offensive line did not help out, but still, that wasn't good. But then he played well, had a career high in passing yards there in that game, especially in the second half, the way he played. Week 3, I thought the offense wasn't good, and the numbers bear it out, but they got the job done when they needed to. They had the opening drive touchdown to Cashton, the Mike Jackson interception as well, but Bryce only threw for 121 yards, then 150 yards for that game against New England, slamming his helmet again. The passing game not looking great. Sunday, just 2 catastrophic turnovers that led to 14 points for Miami, but then he made throws and the plays necessary. So we've seen the Jekyll Hyde nature of the Bryce Young experience so far, and you're just waiting for it to just level out. And you're also waiting for these numbers to level out and for him to be 15th or 16th or 17th in passer rating, EPA per dropback, success rate, explosive pass play percentage. But instead, he's sitting there in the bottom of the NFL in its year 3. So yeah, that's concerning so far. And the turnovers really are the thing, but you're just not seeing those big plays in the passing game. And again, he has made 33 starts so far in his career. And in those 33 starts, 21 of them, he's failed to throw for 200 yards. And the Panthers are 6-15 now in those games, threw for 198, and that went on Sunday against Miami. Jake now asking a question, saying, hate to bring up a negative question after a win, but it's on my mind. Are you concerned about the Panthers' internal evaluation of players? Feel like a lot of players that were overlooked by the staff were important in the win on Sunday. Some examples being Cade Mays behind Austin Corbett at center, Brady Christensen, who was awesome behind Chandler Zavala and Brandon Walton, Jimmy Horn, who made plays after not getting a jersey the first couple weeks, and finally getting pressure without DJ Johnson. Now, here's a positive way to look at that, to look at the way that Brady played, helping open up holes there on the right side of the offensive line on Sunday. Looking at how well Cade Mays played the last couple of weeks, filling in for Austin Corbett, looking at Jimmy Horn Jr. make the most of his opportunity, and then, looking at the pass rush as well. Maybe it's the improved depth on the roster. Maybe that's what it is. I think that's the way to look at it. It's like, man, the depth on the roster actually might be pretty good if some of these guys who are helping the Panthers win a game on Sunday weren't even out there on the field. I think that's a way to look at it. But as far as breaking it down on all the things that you had mentioned there, like they do deserve a measure of credit for getting Cade Mays to come back here to Carolina after they brought back Austin Corbett as well and having that competition. Now, to me, it felt like it was always going to be Austin Corbett just based off of what Dave Canales has said. Now, he said it was a close competition, but he also said the leadership and the experience that Austin Corbett had is what gave him the edge over Mays. So if that's the case, that you wanted experience and leadership, then Cade Mays was never going to win that job. You look at PFF last year, and he was a better player. Now, he had 3 more games that he played than Austin Corbett at center, but he was better than Austin, than Brady, than all the guys who started at center last year for Carolina. And you even look at when he came in and the way that Bryce Young played. And I tried to ask Dave about that and whether Cade was a big reason of that. He didn't really necessarily say yes or no. He did say, okay, yes, Cade was really helpful in the communication, all that. I don't know how much credit he really deserves there, but there is a correlation. And it's not like Bryce has played that well since Cade's come back in, if we're being honest. So, yeah, I just think that they wanted the veteran guy, and I don't think that's them necessarily overlooking. It's just they went with somebody who they were a little bit more comfortable with, but also they brought back Cade Mays and knew that he could step in and play the way he's played so far. So I give them some credit. Don't think he's necessarily been overlooked. It's been a poor evaluation of their players. You look at Brady Christensen, I can't really explain the situation. Maybe because he can play all 5 positions on the offensive line, that they felt more comfortable just having him be a guy that they can just rotate in if they need. But if that was the case, why did he not start at left tackle week 1? Why was it Josh Nijman, who was their lowest graded offensive lineman last year when he was playing primarily at right tackle? Why did he not start at right guard? And why was it Chandler Zavala? Why, when Zavala went down, was it Brandon Walton in there instead of him? Then after that, they're like, oh, and actually we're going to start Brady. I don't really understand that, other than they're more comfortable where they can bring him in at tackle, or they got to just wait till they have no other choice, that they want to keep guys. Like if Zavala's backing up Robert Hunt, they wanted him to be in there first. And if you have Josh backing up Icky, you want him in there first. I don't know, man. That one did not make any sense to me at all. Why not play the guy who's clearly your next best offensive lineman, can play all across the offensive line when those injuries happen? Then you look at Jimmy Horn Jr., seems pretty clear to me, just based off of how things have played out, that they, at least through the first 5 weeks of the season, did not view him as a special teams player, whether that was being a gunner or returner. They did not view him in that light. They liked other guys like Dale Von Campbell, who's no longer here in Carolina, in those spots. And what they wanted him to do was to really catch up offensively. But the problem was you had guys ahead of him, and he did not get an opportunity until David Moore, who helps out also on special teams, went down with an injury, and then they had no choice but to call him up, especially with Jalen Coker still on IR on Sunday in that game against Miami. So he earned his spot, and it'll be curious to see how things play out. We can talk more about that here momentarily, but I think it's just that they viewed him more as an offensive asset than a special teams asset. And I even asked Dave last week, would Jimmy be a returner? He said maybe. We didn't see him as a returner. Maybe we'll see him this upcoming Sunday. We'll see. And then as far as the pass rush goes, DJ Johnson got exposed. I mean, yes, we know that he's been exposed for a while now, but it got to the point where they just decided that they could not let that last any longer. Pat Jones and DJ Wonnum didn't play week 4 in New England, and there was a lot of DJ Johnson, more of him than Princely Umanmi Ellen, mind you, and he was bad. But the Panthers, by the way, Jake, still have the worst PFF pressure percentage in the NFL, so the pass rush was good in the second half on Sunday. We went over that yesterday on the good, the bad, and the ugly, but it ain't good. It's dead last in the NFL. Okay, let's take one more quick pause, and we'll come back, and we will talk more about Jimmy Horn Jr. and where he fits in moving forward, and try to make sense of what this Panther season's been so far and where things could head here in just a moment on Locked On Panthers. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I've built parlays, tried player props, and even follow the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, back here on Locked On Panthers, a couple more questions here on this weekly Wednesday mailbag edition of the show. Now over to Hunter and Rylan, who both have questions concerning the Panthers rookie Jimmy Horn Jr. Hunter asking first, with Jimmy Horn's performance against the Dolphins, what do you expect his role to be moving forward? Will he continue to be active on game days? And Rylan saying, my question concerns Jimmy Horn and kickoffs/punt returns. No disrespect to Trevor Etienne or DJ Dallas, but between both of their inconsistencies and David Moore's injury, what damage could throwing Jimmy Horn back there do? Great questions, Hunter and Rylan. Going first with Hunter, it will depend as far as whether Jimmy will be active on game days based off of Jalen Coker when he comes back. If he's not back on Sunday, Jimmy Horn Jr. will get a jersey yet again. And also, I think it's going to come down to how they value him in the offense and potentially on special teams. And we talked a little bit about this yesterday when reacting what Dave Canales had to say during his Monday day after press conference and looking at the wide receiver hierarchy. Tetero McMillan, Xavier Legette, those are your top two guys on Sunday, whether Coker plays or not. Then once Coker comes back, he'll be in that top three. After that, they've only kept 5 guys active on game days at wide receiver. So it's going to be 2 guys for 3 spots. That's Hunter Renfrow, or 3 guys for 2 spots, rather. That's Hunter Renfrow, Jimmy Horn Jr., and Bryson Tremaine. Now, I'm guessing Bryson Tremaine is going to be number 4. He's going to be solid and be on the roster because they like him as a run blocker. He's helped out a little bit in the pass game. They trust him enough to be out there at the end of the game against Arizona. Now, that's because Legette wasn't playing well. He was out there also during New England, played a lot of snaps in that game, and he can help out on special teams. So he would be the 4th. So it comes down to Hunter Renfrow and Jimmy Horn Jr. And just based off of what I've seen out of Hunter so far this season, aside from the comeback attempt in Arizona, I would think that Jimmy would get that opportunity over Hunter at this point in time. I think that possibly he surpassed him. And a big thing, too, is, as Rylan asked, they're struggling at punt return right now. Trevor Etienne had the muff, then had the situation in New England where he's trying to down inside the 5. Like, what the hell are you doing? You have DJ Dallas, who doesn't field the punt around the 20. That gets down inside the Panthers 5-yard line as well. And then you have Hunter Renfrow getting opportunity. He didn't look very comfortable back there on his one return on Sunday. They put DJ Dallas right there afterwards on the next punt return. So for me, like, just find somebody who can go back there and catch the ball. I don't need a Marcus Jones if I was a coach. And for Carolina, they don't need to have a Marcus Jones like New England, who killed Carolina. It would be nice to have a game changer like that. But just get somebody who can field a punt, who can make the right decisions. And maybe that's Jimmy Horn Jr. Maybe it is. So I don't know. I plan on asking Tracy Smith, the special teams coordinator here in Carolina, about this on Thursday when we have the coordinator press conferences on Zoom that morning. I'll ask him where Jimmy potentially fits in and just the issues they've had back there, at least the rotating cast of returners in the punt game. But if Jimmy is able to potentially be a returner, whether it be on kickoff or punt return, and then if he's going to continue to be able to make some plays like he made on Sunday and be kind of a gadget guy, I would think that he would be the 5th guy and would be ahead of Hunter Renfrow. And then what does that mean for Hunter the rest of the season? I don't know. But I would guess that Jimmy would get that 5th spot just based off of how things have played out recently, and this supposedly being a meritocracy in the NFL here in Carolina. Final questions coming from Preston and from Matthew from San Antonio. Preston saying, been just curious, your thoughts on how you would evaluate this season if it continues to go like it has the first 5 games. The Panthers show up one week, then look terrible the next, start the game terrible, but finish strong, etc. Then Matthew saying, by the way, the season is looking by the way the season's looking right now, 2-3 record, 1-0 in division play. How do you feel the rest of the season goes? Do you think the Panthers can get at least 7 wins this season? Now, I think the bigger question to both of y'all is, how does Sunday go against Dallas? Because I can't even trust this team to go from looking really good for 6 quarters to being able to carry that over to the next week. And it is a week-to-week league, and I'm sure you're tired of hearing that. And I'm kind of tired of saying it, but that's just what the NFL is, baby. It's a week-to-week league. You never know, especially with the Carolina Panthers, what you're going to get. So they started off terribly. They held on. They were only down 17-10 at the half, I believe. And then they were able, and then they were able to come back and close off and win that game, which, great, right on, finally. But Dallas concerns me. They have a really good offense. Defense ain't good. But do I trust Bryce Young to be able to keep up with Dak Prescott all day? Do I trust the Panthers defense to be able to hold Dallas down to a reasonable degree? Not really, y'all. So I got to see what they look like on Sunday. Because again, Dave Canales said it takes 4 to 6 weeks to know who this team will be. They've had 3 games on the road. They've lost all of them. They've had 2 games at home. They've won all of them so far. Their final game, at least in this 2-game home stretch, at home is on Sunday. They would have 3 on the road, 3 at home. And then I think I'll have a better idea of what to feel about this team with the Jets afterwards. Now, if they lose to the Jets, that could wipe away everything. So maybe I should wait to the Jets game before really telling you how I feel. As far as like the win total, I said 8-9. And God, that was just me trying to be like positive, because I really wrote down, if you go back and look at my notes, I wrote down 7-10. I got to see it first. So I still feel like 7-10. I got to see it first, even if I on record officially said 8-9. Immediately regretted it. Week 1. Immediately, I was like, oh my God, what have I said? What have I done? I don't know, man. I don't know what's gonna happen the rest of the year. But let's wait until maybe after Sunday, and quite possibly after the Sunday after that against Jets, before making an evaluation nearly halfway through the year. So appreciate those questions. That's going to wrap up this edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network, hosted by yours, Julian Council. Again, y'all, subscribe or follow the show free over on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And be sure to follow me, Julian Council, over on Twitter and Blue Sky at Julian Council, because next Wednesday I'm back answering your weekly Wednesday mailbag questions. Just at me or DM me to get those questions into me immediately following the game on Sunday. In the meantime, be safe, be happy, be whole. As always, keep pounding. And tomorrow, it's the Thursday. It's Locked On NFL crossover Thursday. I can talk with Marcus Mosher of Locked On Cowboys. All that coming up on Thursday here on Locked On Panthers.